Supporting businesses shut down during the coronavirus pandemic.
There are so many stories of community members helping community members.
Challenges facing families in the coming weeks as schools remain closed.
What if you don't have the resources to have Wi-Fi? What if you don't have the resources to have a computer?
And maintaining our mental well-being while following isolation guidelines.
We need to prepare ourselves mentally as well as physically for being in this over the long haul here.
Hello and welcome to Arizona 360. I'm Lorraine Rivera. Thanks for joining us. This week, communities in southern Arizona and across the country began adapting to new restrictions in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. As tests confirm more cases in Arizona, the state's top health officials caution the disease has yet to reach its peak. Businesses that closed and workers who lost their jobs as a result are already feeling the pinch. We learn more about resources currently available from Tucson Metro Chamber President Amber Smith. It's been more than a week now with business closures, reduced hours. People are losing their jobs. I mean, we're hearing about this, at least a couple hundred in the downtown Tucson area. Is that what you're hearing?
Absolutely. And there's certainly going to be shifts in jobs too. And at the Chamber, we're going to work real hard to get those displaced workers into those areas that are hiring.
For those that have had to create layoffs or reduce services, I mean, what are some of their backup plans in the interim given the unknowns?
I think we are in a wait and see period as to what are those resources going to be from our state and federal government.
For some of us on the outside looking in, we think we're talking just about restaurants, bars, hotel, leisure. Are there other industries that you didn't think of but that are seeing the pinch?
Absolutely. I mean, your services in general, retail is another one. But think about your barbershops and your nail salons and, just small services like that they don't have the option of working from home.
Yeah.
And so we are going to be watching what's going to happen with construction and manufacturing. And what we've heard so far has been positive news, that our aerospace and defense contractors and our manufacturers have not been hurt by this. But we're hoping that that remains. But again, with that uncertainty, there is nothing that says that it will.
These announcements really came down like March 17th for a lot of the areas here in the city of Tucson, and then Pima County soon followed. A lot of people thought, okay, the end of March, so that's coming up soon. What's the plan after that?
I would be surprised if those rules were released. I think that with the schools now closing into April, that if anything, there would be alignment with that school date. But again, every day we just wait to hear what's going to happen.
There are a lot of families and businesses who are questioning whether or not they should trust their state, local, federal governments, and they're worried about what the truth really is.
Absolutely. I mean, what we have heard is that on mortgage home loans that call your bank, 50% of them are backed by, Sallie Mae and Freddie Mac, and those companies have already said that they will allow a 1-year delay in you making your payment. So I would start calling your lenders, your landlord, your utility companies, your credit card companies, because the response has been very, I don't want to say positive because it's such a difficult situation, but understanding and supportive that there's going to be some challenges. So I would start there.
Okay, it can't all be doom and gloom, so give me some good news about what is happening out in the Tucson community that is trying to help some of the businesses right now.
There are so many stories of community members helping community members. And I think that is what's so extraordinary right now. And on the other side of it as well, we can accomplish so much more that we probably never would have thought possible. We're going to be more efficient. We're going to be innovating at home and in our careers and our businesses as we learn to adjust to this. So in the end, I am cautiously optimistic that we can be stronger as a business community in the end, whenever that may be.
And you feel confident that we can learn something from this?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, just in my own organization, we're doing the Zoom meetings as well at home. And my team of 14, we've never communicated better, and we're not even in the same building. So there's definitely some lessons learned that are going to be applied.
Okay, Amber, thank you.
Thank you.
Crowd restrictions have hit restaurants, bars, and gyms especially hard. Just before the city of Tucson announced mandatory closures, we heard from business owners about some of their concerns.
A lot of people are talking about the 50-person number, and therefore, I guess that means I stay open, or the 10-person group, okay, I guess that means we need to close. I felt like we were grasping for details. We just moved to this new spot like 2 months ago. I used every ounce of energy and resource I had to do that.
When we are in a busy period of time, or when we have lots of shows, we'll have as many as just over 100 people that will take a paycheck.
I am trying to save enough money to reopen when that time comes. But it is Tucson, and we're going to reopen in the dead of summer, which is pretty scary.
Well, our biggest fears are paying our bills and making sure our employees can pay their bills. We had been looking at alternatives like, having liquor pickup or liquor delivery, because we can do that with a 6 license. We're going to try to take care of our employees the best we can.
This is a big part of health and mental health and happiness for people. Staying connected seems very important. People right away were like, will you do online? It's not something we've done ever before. So I've just been slamming trying to educate myself on how to, easily and accessibly do that.
You can't just open your doors the next day and have touring artists there, right? It takes preparation, it takes lead time. Generally, the absolute minimum amount of time for that is 2 months. Just a tremendous amount of uncertainty, which means a much lower likelihood that robust touring will resume anytime soon.
The uncertainty business owners express is also shared by Fred Ronstadt, a former Tucson City Councilman and current Executive Director of the North 4th Avenue Merchants Association. I met him outside of his office to discuss the reality facing businesses in the historic district.
We heard stories of people potentially having to sell their houses, file bankruptcy. It was just a horrendous choice for us.
At the local level, what does that mean for this community right now?
We're scared. We're very scared about what that means because we don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty. We don't know when exactly the businesses are going to be allowed to get back in business. A lot of these businesses are small mom and pop operations, and they run on a very, very thin margin.
We hear a lot about how local, state, federal governments are trying to support small businesses. What's the reality, though?
4th Avenue is working with the Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce. We're partnering with the Better Business Bureau, with the Tucson Association of Realtors, Southern Arizona Leadership Council. A lot of the heavy-hitting leadership organizations in the community are coming together. We've created a repository of information, which includes things for individuals and includes things for businesses. It's available on a website through the Metro Chamber of Commerce.
You've been in Tucson a long time. Do you get the sense that local government understands the pinch these businesses are feeling?
I think they understand it, but they're in a really tough position because protecting public safety and individuals in the community is balanced up against protecting people's livelihoods. And it's a really tough place to be in. And I always joke with the current mayor and council that I love being on this side of the rail instead of on their side, because we're living in very interesting and difficult times, and they're making choices based on the best information they have when they're making those decisions. So, pray for them, support them, and hopefully we get through this.
Ronstadt served under 2 mayors between 1997 and 2005. Despite his time on the city council, he doesn't know what he would do differently given the circumstances.
After having this experience, I certainly have a very clear perspective on how any kind of decision affects these locally owned businesses are all of our mom and pops that work every single day of the year to make a living, not only for themselves but for their employees. It's an incredibly difficult choice that has to be made, and I pray that they've made it with the best information that is available, because that's truly the only thing you can do.
Given what you know about this community here along 4th Avenue, and there's already been hundreds of job losses and hour reductions, how does a place like this recover?
So this is how it recovers. One, you don't let it get that bad. So we asked the community to support these local merchants. They are open online. They are open for pickup and deliveries. Please, please, please take advantage of that. Once we get through this and they're open again, 4th Avenue is the best experience in Tucson. And we just invite people to come down here and support all of our local merchants. They will be so happy to see you, and you'll see firsthand what you are supporting. You can see the owners, the employees, all the crafts and local goods that are down here. The experience is like nothing else. So those two things: support them now, support them when you can come out and see the sun again.
Coronavirus precautions are also keeping students at home until at least April 10th, a directive by Governor Doug Ducey. In the meantime, districts are also devising ways to continue with lessons, but disruptions are inevitable, as we discuss with Pima County Superintendent of Schools, Dustin Williams.
The regular school year is 180 days. We also have school districts that are 200-day school districts.
Okay. Have we met that thus far?
No, we have not. Let's just call it somewhere around about 130, 135 days. May 24th, depending on schedules, or we're looking into June for those 200 days. HB 21 or 2910, the governor's authority on school closures, would allow us to not add days if this closure goes to any further extensions.
Can this jeopardize funding?
At this point, no. And the reason only is of the actions of the legislature and the governor that said in the bill that the funding won't be jeopardized.
Let's talk about digital learning. It sounds great, but it's not as easy as it sounds. So what does it look like in the household?
Yeah, so digital learning is interesting. I mean, if you just look at the percentage of people that can learn by the internet and by computer only, that's a difficult process already. Number two is, what if you don't have the resources to have Wi-Fi? What if you don't have the resources to have a computer? What if you only have one computer, a family of four, a mom and a dad, and the mom and dad are working remotely and need that computer throughout the day, and then you still have four other kiddos that you have to use the computer? So in Pima County and across the state, we're doing kind of an inventory phase of where the families are at, where the district's at, what are the needs that they need. And then we have some good companies on the side, Tucson Electric Power, we have all the libraries willing and able to say, hey, what do you need? But this week we just kind of have to figure out what exactly is that ask going to be, and then how do we go ahead and shift that momentum and energy to fulfill those needs.
Arizona ranks 14th in the nation for child poverty, so the reality of families not having computers or the high-speed internet is very real. What will be some of the plans? I mean, you mentioned working with companies, but you can't just flip a switch suddenly and make all this work.
Right, and that's, the question is, will you ultimately be leaving out a percentage of students from learning? One, we can send packets home and we can deliver packets and do mail-by packets, but if one group of students can work by using technology and another group can't, it makes it a really unfair, inequitable situation.
I mean, admittedly, there will be kids who are going to be left out.
Yeah, and that's where schools right now, their first thing that they're looking at in the state is shelter, food, and water. And then also, are we making sure that all the meals are getting delivered on a regular basis, which is at least their breakfast and their lunch? And so far, we're doing a phenomenal job in that area.
Parents, it sounds like, are really going to have to step it up.
They're going to step it up if they have the means, and there's two things to look at that. I mean, one is I have two boys, and one's a kindergartner and one's a second grader, and I'm fortunate that my wife is a stay-at-home mother, but not a lot of families have that. There's single families out there that don't have that opportunity. There's other families that are both working. And then one thing is my 6-year-old's on the spectrum, so he's got autism. And so working with him right now is a whole nother ball of wax, because the cognitive learning part, the instructional part, is not what we're really worried about with him, because he's just so bright and intelligent. It's that social emotional part. And that's what I want everyone also to remember during this pandemic. There's 2 parts to the education system that are just vital. One is the learning, obviously, reading, writing, arithmetic, all of it. But 2 is that social emotional part that kids learn when they have fun times, indifferences, conflicts, working with adults, working with kids, and sorting out through life experiences that make us good, civil people. And that part we have no answer for, because they're all at home right now.
You are known for being positive.
Yeah.
So how do we recover from something as significant as this?
You know, we have a great organization, Ben's Bells, the Be Kind model. I wore the Be Kind tie today. And I know that the pressures and the anxiety levels are high. And believe me, I understand this as just a parent. But at the end of the day, we have to sit back and say, you can still go get a book, you can read with your family, you can spend some time with your family, you can be upbeat and positive, because we are going to do this and we're going to do it together.
Right. And at least we have running water and electricity.
There you go. You know, we've got the basic means of running water and electricity.
Okay, Superintendent Williams, thank you.
Thank you very much.
In an effort to help students and families, Arizona Public Media is offering curriculum on air and online. Visit education.azpm.org/distance learning for more information. And despite school closures, students can still count on getting their most important meals of the day. We saw firsthand how the Tucson Unified School District distributed several thousand meals this week alone. The Grab and Go program started on Monday to feed kids breakfast and lunch each day of the work week. Tucson Unified School District Food Services Coordinator Lindsay Aguilar explains.
So the great thing about this emergency feeding program that we're implementing is this all children 18 and under qualify, regardless of normally during the school year if the family does not qualify for free or reduced.
However, it's important to note that parents must bring their children with them to pick up their meals.
There are requirements that we have to abide by because it is a federal child nutrition program. So at this point, we are not able to provide meals unless the child is present.
To prevent large gatherings, TUSD bus drivers and workers are delivering meals along 12 bus routes, making stops at 113 locations. This also helps parents who can't drive to school.
From the food service aspect, we're very excited to team up with our transportation folks and have our mobilized meals out throughout the community.
Deliveries are from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Buses arrive and stay at each location for about 10 minutes.
The time schedules we will do our best to stick to, but if there are, delays that we can't control, just to be patient and hang tight, and the buses will be arriving as soon as they can. Each school district's Grab and Go program throughout Arizona may offer different distribution sites. Sahuarita Unified School District Superintendent Manny Valenzuela told us parents with children can pick up their meals at 2 locations.
What we've structured is a designated meals to go at Sopri Elementary School, which is on the very southern part of our district boundaries down there, right on the Pima County and Santa Cruz County line. And then the other location is at our newest school, Wrights and Ridge K-8 School, which is right off of I-19 and Sahuarita Road.
Details on times and location can be found on each district's website. School leaders we spoke to said the Grab and Go programs will be in place throughout the coronavirus-related closure.
We want everybody to know that we're committed as a community to taking care of our children. These are not ideal times, and we're all having to adapt and overcome. But one of the top priorities is making sure that our kids are healthy, safe, and as well as they can be. And this meal program is an effort to do that in a very helpful manner. As experts urge keeping a safe distance from others, we discussed how to cope with the physical isolation. Via Skype, here's more with University of Arizona psychology professor David Sabara. So tell us a bit about human behavior and why many of us, it seems, are reacting the way that we are to this pandemic.
Well, I mean, I guess let's just start with what is anxiety. Anxiety is a negative emotional experience that comes up largely when we're dealing with uncertain and uncontrollable events in our immediate environment. And I certainly classify a global pandemic as uncertain and uncontrollable. So experiencing anxiety and this sort of sense of panic that is an alarm reaction, maybe at the wrong time, is pretty normal right now.
How much of a role do things like television, radio, social media play into what we're feeling given the uncertainty?
I think they play a tremendous role. So I teach a large undergraduate class at the university. It's entitled Health Psychology, where we focus very much on stress management, and we've pivoted since the class has gone online to focus a lot on what's happening with respect to COVID and the coronavirus. And one of the things that we've been exploring this week is the idea of vicarious trauma, and that is the extent to which we ourselves can be traumatized by seeing other people's experiences with near death, by seeing gruesome images in the media. And so the idea, stay at home, do social distancing, seems to be at odds a little bit with create space from what you're consuming by way of media. So we have to be very careful that we're not vicariously traumatizing ourselves and taking in too much.
What are some things we ought to be doing to help us sort of manage these emotions?
Well, I think the most important one, you're probably hearing this a lot right now, and your viewers are probably hearing this a lot, is to really try to control what you can control. You cannot manage the disease itself. You can manage your personal hygiene, cleaning up your space, washing your hands, maintaining physical distance from other people. And the idea of social distancing maybe is a little bit misleading. It's physical distancing that we want to really push people toward while we stay socially connected.
What is it about our analysis of this pandemic that sends some people to the grocery store to stock up on essentials?
I think that is the exact thing we do when we are panicking. Panic is an emergency reaction at the wrong time. So when we have a collective state of panic, some people might call it hysteria, we see people taking steps as if the world was ending tomorrow, and it's not. One of the things we need to be clear about is that we need to prepare ourselves mentally as well as physically for being in this over the long haul here.
What's the solution? Is it prescription medication? Is it meditation? Give us something that makes us feel like there is light at the end of the tunnel.
I think for the most part, it's not prescription anxiety medication. Short-acting anxiety medication can come with a host of other types of problems. If people are having really, really serious functional impairment, then they should talk to their doctors about that. But there are a whole host of behavioral strategies we can engage in, starting with simply learning to acknowledge and allow your feelings to be what they are. All of us are struggling with anxiety right now. As we start doing this physical distancing and the social distancing, loneliness is coming online and being something that is particularly challenging for people. We have to recognize that our emotions are there, let them be there without fighting to push them away, without fighting to push them down, and try to engage in valuable, meaningful activities that are right in front of us.
Fair to say there's a real benefit to accepting that these feelings of uncertainty are all very normal?
Absolutely. I think that is, in fact, key. It is not the feelings that cause problems for us. The feelings are very normal. This is our body's information system, and it's conveying important information. But it's what we do to manage those feelings. And sometimes we, push them away, we want to drink too much, or other times we grab on and sort of amplify them. So it's really how we manage our feelings that creates the most difficulty and challenges for people.
Okay, one step, one day at a time, it sounds like.
Absolutely, absolutely.
With more people turning to technology to stay connected, we got online to learn what physical distancing looks like for one Tucsonan, 93-year-old World War II veteran Ralph Stiles.
Hey Ralph, thanks for doing this. I'm looking forward to it. I've never done Zoom before.
Oh, well, I'm a newcomer too. I got up a little early so we could get the thing set up.
Tell me how you've been managing. I know that you drive, you're pretty active, but you're kind of sitting still right now during this crisis. Is that correct?
Yes, I've been sworn to stay inside by my son.
Are you at all a little stir crazy, given that I understand you're a pretty active person, but you've been staying inside more than usual?
Well, see, I lost my wife 8 years ago. And so I'm alone all the time unless somebody comes to visit me, which they do. And so I am no stranger to being alone. So it hasn't been as much of a hardship on me because I found ways to entertain myself.
Ralph keeps himself preoccupied in ways that many Arizonans can probably relate, from binge watching The Sopranos
They got 6 or 7 seasons.
to crossword puzzles
My sons have kept me supplied.
and frequent calls with friends.
The time passes, Lorraine. I don't have much of a problem staying at home.
How are you managing with groceries and things like that?
My son, in fact, he just called me this morning and wanted to know if I needed anything. And I have a little table outside of my back door. And so they just come and set the groceries down on there. And then after they go, I go and pick up the groceries and hope they're not contaminated with a virus.
For me, logging into something like Zoom is a bit of a challenge. How have you adapted to all this technology that we've had to adjust to?
That's a good question, because I was in the computer business. I started out my working days in the mechanical accounting machine era with what was then the Burroughs Corporation. I'm only giving you that background because to illustrate the fact that I should be, but I'm not very computer literate. And like they say, if you want to know how to run your computer, talk to your grandkids, you know.
Have you had conversations with your sons or grandkids about when this is all said and done, how you guys sort of will reconnect with each other?
I don't see any real change coming after we get out of this emergency that we're in.
Yeah.
See, I was pretty happy with my life before, and if I could just get back to my life the way it was, it would be fine, because other than that, I can't see much that's going to need to be changed for me, except I don't want to get any older.
Before we go, a special programming note to share. This Sunday, Arizona 360 returns for an hour-long special that continues to explore the coronavirus pandemic's impact to our region. We hear from the governor, health experts, and more. Tune in Sunday, March 29th at 6 p.m. And that's all for now. Thanks for joining us. Send us your questions related to the coronavirus at Arizona360@azpm.org. We'll see you soon.